Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining me. My name is Yvonne McBride. This is Yvonne McBride Lit Life. And in this space, we encourage, we motivate, we support women of the diaspora who want to live, plan for, and flourish in the life of their dreams. If that is you, please take a moment to subscribe to this channel. Um, Hit the notification bell so that you will be abreast of any videos coming in the future and settle in to today's conversation. Um, I wanted to bring this next guest to you because in these chaotic times, as we're moving forward, we want to transition into our next phase of life. Not fleeing, not fleeing like a thief in the night, not pent up with anxiety, and prioritizing our health, right? Our mental, our spiritual, our physical health while we make these transitions. And this next guest, she is all about that. Charisma. Can you please introduce yourself to the people?
So I'm Charisma Cares. I am a nurse practitioner. At this point, I would say I'm a nomad because we've been doing this for 4 or 5 years now. I invest in real estate, so I do some real estate coaching. I also do some coaching for typically women that want to travel abroad, women that maybe single moms, or maybe they have kids or family with special needs and disabilities. So I still dabble in coaching for people for that, and then I also have a holistic mental health clinic.
So she is being humble in her description. But as we talk, as we get to know Miss Cares, you will see how much that she does on a daily basis, how many balls that she keeps juggling in the air. And so we're going to start at the beginning. Why did you choose, and why did you choose to leave the US?
So I always knew I wanted to leave the US. I knew very, very young that this was not home for me. My mother is first generation American, so I'm only second generation. So my grandma, all of my aunts and cousins were all from Panama and Costa Rica.
Oh, okay.
And I always wanted to go to those spaces because of the way they would just speak about it. My grandmother was actually the first American here in the States. So every one of my family members went through my grandmother to become citizens here. So and my grandmother was a traveler. She was a nomad herself. Back then, it was the Greyhound bus. She's lived in New York, South Carolina, North Carolina, New Orleans, all the way from north to south of the East Coast. And many of those times, I was right there in tow with her. So that was something I always wanted to do. It wasn't something that I realized was possible until around COVID. Although when my daughter was in ninth grade, I said, "We're leaving when you graduate. I know you love it here, so I'll let you finish school here." But well, let me go back. I have a son and a daughter. They're about 9 years apart. So my daughter, I wanted her to finish high school in the States. But my son, when I found out about his disability and then the first diagnosis and then the second diagnosis, the second diagnosis was worse than the first. And I said, well, you know what? Since life looks a little different for you, I'm going to raise you differently. So for my daughter, she needed stability. She
Mm-hmm.
needed to stay in place. So I had decided we would stay in place until she finished high school, got through her first year of college, or at least comfortable in college. For my son, since he has what's considered a life limiting disorder, or progressive, which means it gets worse over time, I said, we're going to do things a little bit different. Normally, you go to school, you get a job, you get married, you have kids, you live life. So I decided we're going to do his differently. We're going to live life, go to
No, that's
school,
right. Yes.
let everything else go.
Yes.
So this is all going on, and my daughter gets to 11th grade, and that's when COVID hits, when she was in 11th grade. So my daughter didn't really experience 11th or 12th grade. So
Okay.
she was one of those children that ended up having, a very hard time dealing with being in the middle of a pandemic. So when she graduated, she decided she didn't want to go to college at the time, and she just kind of wanted to explore her own self. And I decided it was time for me to start moving on. I no longer wanted to work at my regular job. I was working for a Fortune 500 company, a major insurance company, and I just didn't want to do that anymore. I just felt like it was a waste of my time. During COVID, I took 2 or 3 trips, three actually. I went to the Virgin Islands twice, and I went to Panama. And when I went to Panama, it was very
Okay, so
much.
pause. You took the trips with your children?
This is without my children, so this is
Okay.
before me moving. So this
Okay.
is during COVID.
So you're scouting it out for them, basically, to see.
I think I just needed a break. I've always been a big traveler, and being
Yes.
stuck in the house was causing me to experience a high level of depression.
Okay.
So my family was like, okay, we got to let her get out this house. So I took the
So
2 trips.
were y'all what was the word where we were all hunkered together? Were y'all doing that as a big family, everybody in one house?
So no, so I was in my house. My mom and my stepdad's sister was in that house. My
Okay.
daughter was with me, depending on where she was moving, but we didn't leave the house.
Okay.
I had to let my job know I refused. My son had a disability, and I didn't know how COVID would react. I
Okay.
didn't start leaving the house until we were into the second year of COVID.
Okay.
And back then, the flights were under $200 round trip,
Yes.
and nobody was
With
on the
those
plane.
times. Yes.
Yes, it would be like 5 people on the plane total. So it was very easy to social distance when you literally not had your row, but the row across from you too.
Yes.
So I went to Panama, and this was just a solo trip, and it was the most transformational, the start of my transformational journey. I got to meet my oldest living relative. I got to see where my grandmother grew up,
Wow.
where she played. The people in the house even let me come in the house, kind of just see it. And
So
it was quite.
were they like, doing what we were doing there in Panama? Were they quarantining? Were they, wearing masks?
Um, they were, so I won't say they were quarantining, but they were taking steps that the US was like, no, you're taking away my freedom.
Okay.
In Panama, like you had to do your temperature check and your sanitizer before you went in the mall. You had
Sure.
to wear
Right.
I think you had to wear your mask. So they were taking steps, but at this time, this is when people weren't quarantining as much, but they
Okay. So
were
you said like
taking
after 2
steps.
years. Yeah. It was
Right.
loosening up.
So
Okay.
so this is year 2. And
Gotcha.
so I go there, I learn all these things. I mean, it was just so amazing. And the picture that I took with my oldest living relative, little did I know would be the last picture he would take. In a
Oh.
couple of months, he died.
Oh.
Um, and what he gave me during that time was so inspirational. Had I not gone, I would have never known about my history. And
That
then
was
I
your
had
first
another,
time going to Panama?
that was my first time going to
Okay.
Panama. And then I had another cousin there that told me even more of my history that makes me like, oh, okay. So like my people weren't slaves. Like we were
Yeah.
very much, we're going, we're moving, we're doing different things. So it's a totally different mindset. So I get back to the States, And I'm like, oh, I'm out of here. I'm not doing this. So I didn't leave right away, but what I did was I prepared us, and our first stop was Panama. I was going to go
Okay.
back to Panama. This time I was going with my son. My daughter didn't want to go. But I prepared my house. So I already had one rental property, and I prepared this house for as an Airbnb, the
So
one that I was
where were you living at the time?
in Atlanta.
Okay.
Mhm. So I prepared the house as an Airbnb. I didn't have any clients to move in. I didn't care. I made sure that it was ready. What was locked up needed to be locked up. I made sure I had, the necessary stuff in place, the key lock, all of that. Because in my mind, I knew that I was going to get a long-term tenant. I didn't want to do turnovers. I was going to get a long-term tenant.
Okay.
So I was still working for my job, technically, but not working. And then I had a PRN job, which in the nursing medical field is as needed. And I left. My son and I left, and we went to Costa Rica.
Okay, so pause. Okay, so we have a lot to cover before we even get into before we get into the move abroad. Okay, so you talked about a lot of things. You talked about your two children, how you treated them differently, how you assessed what they needed, right? And move forward with making the decisions for both of them. You also talked about what job you had. So you was working for a Fortune 500 company, right?
Yeah, nurse practitioner. So
Nurse
I was seeing
practitioner.
patients in Atlanta.
Okay. So how did you prepare to leave that job? Did you just quit? Did you just quit? Yeah, no, that's a walk
So
away.
you know how they say like the silent quitting?
You did an
Uh,
Irish exit.
So during COVID, what happened was you were still getting paid.
Okay,
And
that's true.
my job, I was the nurse practitioner that went out. I basically covered from Douglas County. So if you know Atlanta, like
I
Thornton
used to
Road,
work in
Douglas
Douglas County.
County.
Yes, I know
Okay,
Douglas
I
County.
covered
Yeah.
there to the Alabama line.
Okay.
Like I saw page, so it's about a 2 hour drive between one to the other,
I got
something
you.
like
I
that.
know exactly what you're talking about.
So I actually would go out and I would see a lot of patients in the rural areas that couldn't get where they needed to go. So
Okay.
when COVID hit, I refused to go out. Like even before they said if your children had special needs, you had this, that, and other, you can't go out. I just told them I'm not going.
Right.
I've always been a very big believer that I don't sacrifice myself or my family for a job. Like I've seen someone do that and they passed away and nobody gave a damn.
Yes.
So I learned very early in my early
Prioritize
20s,
yourself. Yes.
right, that a job is replaceable. I'm not. So
Right.
if I'm gone, you all find another nurse practitioner. My kids don't find another mother. So I remember because I had a white nurse as my supervisor, and she would be like, "Well, Charisma, we just can't do that." And I'm like, "I'm sorry."
Love that for you. We had to learn that. Generation X had to learn that. I'm loving that people beneath us is like, no, there's nothing to learn. This is how we're moving forward. Y'all can take it or leave it, right? Yes.
Right. She would say, "You can't, no, I don't, not." I say, "Well, I think you should ask first, and then you can come back to me with a response. And whatever you and the company decides to do, I'll abide by." It was very simple for me.
Yeah.
Plus, if you know the laws, I would still be able to get unemployment because I was leaving for medical. So I've played this game. I've been in this for a long time, dealing with a child with a disability.
And it's so crazy because it was still the pandemic. Like you still want me to, subject myself.
Well, this was the very beginning. So this is
Oh,
like
okay.
February when people didn't
Okay.
know what
What
to
was
do,
going
what
on?
was going
Gotcha.
on. What I knew was that my mom worked for Emory, very close contact with the CDC. And based
Yes.
off of what I knew, we were staying home.
Yes.
So we weren't taking any chances. So what happened was they kept me on because they realized it was a lawsuit in this huge company. If you force people to go to work, that had medical conditions or people in their
Yes.
households with medical conditions. So for the first few months, they didn't have any work for us. They had to create systems to find work for us. So we would be paid our whole salary. I was making six figures at this point, right? So we would be paid our whole salary. Some weeks we worked, some weeks we wouldn't work. So then it got to the point, we got to year two, and they're like, "Are you coming back?" "No, I'm not coming back." So, however,
and then were you stacking your money during that time? Because we're not going out, we're not spending no money.
Yeah, I'm always stacking money though. Like my mom was, hey, you never know what I got because I'm like the queen. Because I had a son with a disability, there were times where I would go out of work. So I needed to make sure I had money to carry us over.
Gotcha.
If I wasn't able to work for maybe 6 months, like I needed to make sure my kids didn't skip a beat. So I was very like diligent. And during that time, I did. I stacked a lot of money. I invested in some real estate projects. I learned so much. I used that time to level up for myself. So we wouldn't get assignments regularly. And then I think it just got to the point where people kind of lost track of their staff. Like I had not worked. And I had this friend and she'll always say, "We're gonna stay on this till the wheels fall off. Till the wheels fall off.
Until they realize that they're paying us to do nothing." Right.
I stayed on that bus till the wheels fell off. So it got to the point where they no longer paid you monthly, but you still had all your benefits.
Okay.
So I had been with them for 5+ years. So I was vested, I was still getting good insurance because it's an insurance company. So I just didn't say nothing. So maybe 5 months later, HR calls me. I'm in Costa Rica at this point, right? HR calls me. You're like, "Miss Freeman, we see you haven't worked in like 5 months." Like, everybody went back to work 5 months ago. And I was like, "I understand." And she was like, "So do you plan?"
Absolutely not.
"Do you plan to return to work? Or, you either have to return or you have to resign." And she was like, "I do think you should have a conversation with your manager." And I was like, "Okay, I understand, because I'm riding this to the wheels fall off."
Oh my God, this is hilarious.
Oh, I can't be mad at you, So I was like, "I understand, I'll speak with her." So I got on the phone with her, and she was so used to me just like coming at her, like, "Do what you got to do. Like, this your business, not mine."
Not mine, right? So I'm not making no decisions. Y'all make the decision for me.
Right. So she's like, "So do you plan to come back?" And I was like, "No." I was like, "I don't think that's in my best interest. I've really enjoyed my time at the company. It's been great for me. But I think at this point, it's best for me to go ahead and give my notice." And so what I did, it was almost the end of the month. So I waited a week and then gave my notice so my insurance would carry on to next month. So I could get everything that I needed.
Yes.
And I just gave my notice because I'm not about to be mad at y'all. I hadn't worked and God knows when.
So Cam was with you in Costa Rica?
Yes.
Okay. So Cam was with you in Costa Rica. You are living the life. I'm certain because you're still getting your 6 figures and you're in Costa Rica. But what were the requirements? Like, what were your priorities moving with Cam? Like, what did Costa Rica have to have for you to move with your son?
So I didn't have a criteria when I first started.
Okay.
When I first started, it was a spiritual journey. And it was the spirit of my grandmother and me carrying that on. Because she always wanted to go back to her country. So that's what I was working off of. So, I do a lot of meditation. I would do a lot of meditation at that point. And that's how I would determine where I was going. And the first place I went to was Panama. And And it wasn't that we had planned to stay in Panama. We went to Panama. I got to see my cousins, meet some of my other cousins. I got to really be there and feel what Panama was like. And Panama and Costa Rica were definitely a place where I released. Like
Okay.
I would cry all the time. I remember I cried so much that I heard my son in the other room. He was like, "She's crying again. She's always crying, 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 crying." I was like, "Well, damn."
It was a purge, though. It was a release. Listen, they don't understand when you have been on the plantation for so long. You don't know how those emotions have to come out. They have to come out. It was a purging. We understand.
Yes,
I
and
understand.
some of the relationships in my family, the close relationships, were broken at the time, and there was just this high. I'm reading the comment, but there was just this I don't know. It was just, I needed to release. I
Yes.
had been the person in the family, even with me being the youngest, I was taking care of everybody. I was doing things. If you called me, you need this or that, I was doing it. I
Yes.
was taking care of, not only do I have my daughter and my son, but my sister is 6 months older than my daughter. So she's like my baby as well. So, I was doing things for her. And then with my mom, it was just so much stuff going on. And
Carrying
I
all the
was,
burdens as Black women do, carrying all the burdens of the family,
yes.
of ourselves, of everything. Yes, of the world. Yes.
And it was just, and I was unsatisfied in my job. I had got the degree, had the title, had the money. And I remember looking around at my house. By this time, I owned two houses. I owned, stay in an apartment building. And I had some syndication. So I was doing some things and I looked around that house and I was like, I don't want to be here anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of this was a purge for me. And it was a lot of me calling on my loved ones that had passed, a lot of calling on my ancestors and just showing me the light, showing me where do I go next. And
Yes.
it was crazy. When I got ready to leave Panama, I stayed in a condo on the beach. And when I got ready to leave Panama, I was supposed to take a flight to San Jose, Costa Rica. First time in my life I had ever missed a flight. Well, what I ended up doing instead was taking a flight to Bocas Toro in Panama. And it's a little, what they call, what my cousin that had passed, he called a little bird. He was like, "Oh, be careful on those little birds." So, because I was supposed to go earlier, but there was a storm, and the cousin that passed, he said, "Don't go." He said, "You can't go now during the storms. They don't make it through these
These
storms."
little
So
planes.
I
Yes.
didn't go that last trip. But this is when I went because, again, I'm being led by spirit. I'm being led by my grandmother. I'm not
Yes.
making choices. So I ended up flying to Bocas del Toro, and we end up walking across the Costa Rica, Panama to Costa Rica bridge. So my son is literally in a wheelchair. And I have a video of this on my channel. I can send it to
Wow.
you. But I literally recorded myself. And this was before I even got him an electric wheelchair. I am literally pushing him over the bridge from Panama to Costa Rica.
That is beautiful. Oh my God. What an experience for you and for him. That is, we're scared to move solo, right? We're scared to move by ourselves. But for him, for you to be able to see that for him and not see it as a limitation for you and him, and just to walk, I didn't even know there was a bridge. So just to walk the bridge from one place to another that connects your ancestors, that is amazing.
Yeah, back in the day, it wasn't a bridge. And this was, my grandmother was born in Costa Rica, but her family, a lot of her family came from Panama. So you think this is the same
Wow.
bridge
Yeah.
that they crossed over to come into Panama. So me
Was
crossing
your
this
grandmother
bridge,
alive at the time?
at this time, no, my
Okay.
grandmother has since passed.
Okay.
My grandmother, great grandmother, but her sisters are still alive.
Okay.
So it's a lot of her sisters telling me where to go and what to do. She was the oldest. All her Was she the oldest? Well, I know all her sisters after her were born in Panama.
Okay.
So they said back in the day, this bridge had holes and all these different things.
Right.
This wasn't an easy thing.
Right.
So to walk across the same land, and I mean, I'm getting goosebumps just talking about it, that my grandmother, my great grandmother, all of them had walked across
Yes.
many, many decades ago.
That is so powerful. Yes.
And this wasn't the area I was to go to. I was going to the city. Instead, I went to Limon, where my grandmother was from. And there I got to meet my cousins. There I got to sit on Playa Negra, the black sand.
Mm.
Um, and my son, we met a healer there. Someone actually stopped us, and her father was a healer. And she wanted us to go see her father. And we met him. And I hate to say it because it sounds like I'm the angel of death, but a year later, he passed away. Older man, but he did a lot of healing on my son. And he was able to look at different things and tell me, and what he would tell me as a healer were very similar to what the doctors told me,
So
except
he
he
didn't
had a
even
reason
have to
why.
have no equipment. He just intrinsically
He,
knew what was
he had
wrong.
like wood and some.
Wow.
So it
Indigenous
was,
healers, baby. I'm telling you, that is listen. If anything happened to me, I have some medical. If anything happened to me, I'm going to an island. I'm going somewhere and
yes.
find the healers because they know.
And Playa Negra, it means black beach. Basically, it's a volcanic. It's black from the volcanic minerals. So what it's known to do is the locals go there early. They bury themselves in it, and then they pull themselves out of it. Somebody has to pull you out of it,
Hmm.
so it pulls all of those impurities, health issues, and all of that. So we would do that a couple of days. So we did that. We saw the healer. I met my cousins. It was really, I got my grandmother was actually from Jamaica Town. So my grandmother told me that we are descendants of Marcus Garvey. So when Marcus Garvey came to Costa Rica and was doing what they do, we are the descendants of one of the dudes.
Listen, I didn't even know Marcus Garvey made it to Costa Rica. Like, this is a lesson. I hope people are paying
Mhm.
attention. We're going to take a pause of the cause to say hello to the people in the chat. If you are in the room, please say hello. We have Angela, we have Marissa. Um, this conversation already is giving us so much more than I thought we would be covering. Marcus Garvey in Costa Rica, who knew? I did not know. The bridge from Panama to Costa Rica, who knew? I never knew. Um, the spiritual journey that this has taken you on, it wasn't just a move abroad for your mental health and for Cam's mental health, but it was also like a spiritual, this journey is taking you, connecting generations, your ancestors. This sounds amazing. This sounds amazing. um so you're in Costa Rica now?
I'm in Costa Rica now.
Okay.
So I'm experiencing that spiritual journey, but
Yeah.
also I'm still getting my money because at this point, I'm not working at the job. I
Yes.
have my Airbnb going. I have a
Okay.
rental property going. I invest in an apartment building in Alabama, so I have a syndication. So
Okay.
I'm still, investing in different things. So I'm following the market, the real estate market in my neighborhood, and I'm starting. This is when those prices start to skyrocket, right? So I'm starting to see these prices skyrocket, and I'm watching them. I'm watching them. I'm watching them. I'm trying out some day trading, but I'm a horrible day trader, like a little ADHD in there, so I can't day trade. But I end up going back to the States after I leave Costa Rica. And I decide now, I watch it and I decide I'm leaving. I'm leaving for good. I end up selling my house, and I sold my house at the top of the market. My house was one of the highest sold houses on the block. And you think, to give you an idea, I had only bought that house 2 years ago, and I almost doubled what I paid for it. So that's how well I did off of that house. So I came back, packed it up, sold stuff, had yard sales, gave stuff away, and I was basically like, deuces, I'm out of here. I'm done with this. This is not the life for me. During this time, my daughter was like, hey, mom, I want to go with you to the next location. So me being me, I'm going by spirit. I'm not going by, oh, this place is good. This place is good. It is December. And I'm like, I want to go somewhere for Christmas. Where can we go that's Christmassy? So we end up going to Medellin, Colombia. Medellin is considered a very like really Christmassy place, except it's not that far, so it's not that expensive. So we end up with, and we only do one-way tickets. So we do a one-way to Medellin, Colombia. We end up staying in Colombia for like a month and a half. And at this point, I have my son and my daughter. That as well was spiritual. I ended up doing my first ayahuasca ceremony in Medellin. Well, actually, you go to the mountains of Medellin. That was so spiritual, so eye-opening, just absolutely amazing. So I do
Okay, so
that.
pause. Did your children do the ayahuasca with you?
No.
Okay.
Mm-mm.
Okay.
No. So I did the ayahuasca, and it's one of those things that if you're a spiritual person, I think you should do at least once. Me, I'm very spiritually led. I'm gonna be honest, I had no idea what ayahuasca was. So there are
So
people
wait,
that.
who introduced you? You just said, I'm gonna sign up. I'm gonna sign up. Let's go.
So I was in a WhatsApp group and I was asking about any spiritual ceremonies, and I'm thinking, we'll do some breath work, stuff like that. And somebody was like, "Oh, it's an ayahuasca ceremony coming up," and I'm like, "Great!" Not knowing what the hell ayahuasca is. I'm like, "Oh, that sounds great." So I talked to the ayahuasca teacher, and he tells me what it is, and I'm like, "What? I gotta do what? What's good? I gotta purge. Like if you don't know ayahuasca, like you take this medicine from the tree and then you purge, which means you vomit. And some people do number two, like you lose control of all your faculties. And then you basically are open to this trance, this life changing whatever. And that looks different from everybody. I mean, some people act like a demon, some people are like an angel, some people see people from before. So, I'm over here like, huh?
Does that sound like somebody describe what you have to go through?
I'm like,
you have to have faith.
Right. It's a long way away from some breath work, right? And the ceremony is in a week, y'all. So I called a friend that I had made in Costa Rica because we ended up having a really nice spiritual connection. And she says, I really think you should do it. And I'm like, you sure? And she was like, yes. And at the time I was on some antidepressants. So I needed to wean off of antidepressants, which was a little scary for me. Not weaning, because that as a practitioner I knew how to do, but just the idea of having to come off of it.
Right.
But I trusted the process. I did the weaning. I did the ayahuasca, and I did not go back on antidepressants for a very, very long time until something traumatic happened in my life.
Okay.
So that is just how powerful that the ayahuasca was for me.
So what revelations, if you want to share, you don't have to share, what were your revelations that you received from the process?
I think for me, first of all, I had to do it twice. For those that are very logical and analytical, ayahuasca, if you are truly logical and analytical, ayahuasca won't overtake you the first time.
Okay.
Because you have to be willing to give up and release power. And the last thing that I was willing to do was give up and release power. which meant I had to suffer twice. Even when I did, it was so delayed. I literally fought it. I could tell you everything that happened during that ceremony, every single thing. I was still that much awake even after two, but I wasn't about to do it.
Wow. And you did it again. You did it again.
Yeah, that logical mind and the analytics. yeah, you may, yeah, it can feel like death. yes. Luckily, I didn't have both ends, but I was vomiting pretty heavily. I remember at one point thinking, I'm going to die. I'm going to die right here. Nobody even knows where I am. I'm in the mountains somewhere. I don't know where the hell I am. We couldn't take any cell phones. I'm just going to die right here. Like, this is like I'm vomiting and I'm saying
Oh
this
my
is
God.
how analytical I
Y'all
am.
do not make this process sound inviting at all. Everybody, I have not done it, and I'm not doing it. Y'all do this does not listen. If it doesn't lead me to almost the upper room where I can see everything and know all God's thoughts, I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it.
But for everyone is different. For me, it was it was basically continue your journey. Your journey is
Okay.
not over.
Okay.
You're on the right path. It was you're covered. I mean, I've experienced so much in this journey. I'm like, I gotta be covered somewhere.
So
Like you're
any of
covered.
your like, could you feel your grandma there? Were any of your ancestors present?
Um, I don't know that I felt ancestors
Okay.
present. And I did a video on that. I did it right after, and I've rewatched the video before because after a while you don't remember as much.
Yeah.
So I would have to go back because you think this is some years ago to look at the video. But I remember learning that I was on the right path. But more important than what I learned was what I felt. I felt free,
Okay.
if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Because I had to release for the ayahuasca to take over, it was really a battle for me to release. Like I was battling. And afterwards I just felt free, like I could do whatever. I was no longer in this box that America had put me in, or
Okay.
this box that even I had put me in. I was more than somebody's mom, a nurse practitioner, a nurse. I was more than those things. It allowed me to see that I was just me. I was charisma. And that is what I got from it. That's what was so powerful, to release these things that, in a sense, were invisible shackles to me.
So were
So
your you said you posted this. Was it on your YouTube or on your Instagram?
it's on my YouTube.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not as big as doing YouTube videos, but if you go back, I posted about every experience.
So if you want to see the walk across the bridge, if you want to get see the video, I just posted it in the chat. It's also beneath in the description. The link to her YouTube channel. Please check it out.
Yeah, and it's put on there by countries. So we we went from Costa from so after Colombia. Colombia was okay. It wasn't it's nice weather. It's an eternal spring there. It
So
was
what
nice.
part? Medellin? You were in Medellin?
Medellin. Yeah,
Okay.
so it's the place of eternal spring. So it's always around like 70 degrees. There
Okay.
were really nice things to do with the kids, places to go. Things were very inexpensive. The food was dirt cheap.
So how was Cam in these places? Like,
Um,
was
Cam
he
is
acclimating pretty well? How was he on the journey? Like, was it easy for him? Did he have some adjustments to make?
Cam was fine. I feel like my daughter had more adjustments to make.
Okay.
So, Cam, he gets on the plane. He has his tablet, his games, his snacks. He's good to go. So he travels very well. He can stay up the whole trip, even though I'm asleep.
Okay.
So he does that just fine. And for us, we travel with crutches, a wheelchair. I do a travel nebulizer. Being a nurse, I keep a pulse ox. I have my stethoscope. There's just certain things, and I travel with medicines. I try to refill as much as I can. I travel with all of that. So my travel days are not fun. They are rough. So travel days are rough. When we get to the destination, I typically have done absolutely no research. So y'all are like, you went to Colombia, and I ain't know nothing about Medellin, Colombia. I was like, oh, Medellin, Colombia. And
Wait. This is so. I expected like, oh no, I checked for this, especially when you're traveling with children. So this is my first traveling with children video. You are going by the seat of your pants and taking your kids like, hey, we winging it. Let's go. There's no planning in time.
And I don't know that I'm the best role model for traveling parents, but I kept this. I always had this saying: I'm only one plane ride to go back home. If I don't like it, I leave. It's
Okay.
very simple. It's like the job. I don't like it, I leave.
Okay. I love this for you, baby. I love this for you.
Let me tell y'all, I am a Virgo. If you know anything about Virgos, we are perfectionists and planners. I am the Virgo that in high school, for high school
You have
prom,
to
my
have all
best
type of
friend.
Pisces. We got to read your chart. You got some Pisces, some Aquarius, some Sagittarius,
No,
and your rising
let me
something.
tell you, for high school prom, I wrote out an itinerary. Like I wrote it out, copied it, and passed it out to everyone so everyone would be on time. So that's how I am. Like that's how Virgo I was.
Yes.
And sometime after my divorce, when I was around 30, I released so much and I said, I need to find who I am. And I took time to find who I am. And I may still be a perfectionist if you ask my daughter. However, I release a lot of the control because it is very hard to live life unapologetically if you are trying to be in control of
Yes.
everything.
Yes.
And at some point in your life, even if you're not like me and you do it for years, at some point in your life, you need to relinquish the control. And you
And we
need
don't
to
have control
enjoy
anyway. Like
life.
we don't, you don't, the real is that you don't have control anyway.
Exactly. So I am Virgo and Scorpio moon.
Okay.
That's what I am. But I'm on the cusp of Leo. So that's probably where you get a little bit of that. But yeah, I was very stringent and rule follower. You know, if you ever go on a vacation with me, we got it down to the T. And I plan everything. People just give me the money, and I just do all the planning. My family loves it. But this was a time to relinquish that. So I didn't know
Yes.
anything about Medellin. I didn't
Yes.
know anything about the drug lords and all that kind of stuff. I
But
didn't
it
know that
didn't
stuff
have,
till
you
I
didn't have
got
anything
there.
to frighten you, right? So not knowing anything meant there were no hesitations. There was nothing to think. It was no overthinking. You just moved.
I, I guess so. I didn't even put that much thought into it. I was just like, ooh, Medellin, Christmas, cheap, we're going. And we were in Medellin.
How
I mean,
long did
I
y'all
didn't
stay
love
there?
our Airbnb, but we were there.
How long were y'all there?
So we were there about a month and a half. We got
Okay.
bored after a while, but I did enjoy Medellin. I was able to do like a Spanish immersion
Okay.
class because for those that want to learn Spanish, Medellin has the cleanest Spanish of any Latin country. So
Okay.
people go there to learn Spanish. You even get visas to do Spanish immersion in Medellin. So, I learned Spanish. We went to different things. It was enjoyable. It just wasn't the place I wanted to stay. So, and then was talking to a friend, and I really wanted to go to Spain. And I said, and my friend said to me, "Oh, I know somebody in Dominican Republic. They're going to Spain. I think it's pretty easy to get there." Well, that's a lie, y'all. Very don't ever let anybody tell you that. That is the biggest lie if I ever heard a lie. But you know me, I'm not researching. So I book a one-way flight and we're all going to Dominican Republic.
On hearsay. I love this for y'all. Listen, I love this for your children. They are getting all the experience, the travel experience. They getting Nomad by default. Y'all gonna be Nomad by default because wherever I go, I'm dragging you.
Well, I was gonna go direct to Spain, but I did research the weather, and it's cold as hell in Spain during whatever time of year this was. And what I was not doing was cold.
I know
I
that's
did
right.
not
Yeah.
pack clothes for cold weather. So that's how we ended up in Dominican Republic. It was hot. It had beaches. Y'all, I didn't know anything about colorism in Dominican Republic.
So you didn't know anything about the Haiti, DR. Okay.
I don't know nothing about geography. Let me put that out there. I am the person, I get on the plane and the pilot take me where the pilot take me. So that's why people were like, how you going to Dominican Republic? What about the colorism?
For people watching this in the future, do not attempt this at home. Do not attempt this at home. We need a disclaimer. Let me write a disclaimer. What is going on? And she got children in tow.
I was like, I'm guided by the ancestors. The ancestors said go to DR. My grandmother, I'm covered in the blood of Jesus. We going to the DR. So to the DR we went. And I was supposed to go for a month until it got warmer in Spain. I ended up being in the DR for 6 to 7 months.
Wow.
I ended up living in Boca Chica initially, which is kind of like, it's a little bit hood, but it was right on the beach.
Yeah.
And I'm from Atlanta, so a little hood, it just looked like everywhere else to me. I didn't even know it was a little hood until I moved.
And if it's cheaper, that's where we're going. We're not scared of the hood. Yes.
Right. So it was hood and like
hood adjacent.
Maybe that, because I was living on the beach. I was living in a condo, very, very nice. We would attend happy hour on a regular basis.
Yeah, that's not hood. That's not the hood. Yes.
Right. When we first got there, we went to the north and my daughter was with me and she was like, Mom, I want to go back home. I'm not about this travel life. Like, I like vacation, not this. So I was like, okay. So she ended up going back home and
So how old was your daughter though?
At this point, 19.
Okay.
Yeah, 19.
So it's a lot of bopping around. She doesn't have friends. It's just you and her brother. She's sick of y'all. She want to go. Yeah. She want to
basically. She was like, nah, I'm not about this life. So she went back with my mom because she was like, no, this is not fun. Me, I'm having a good time. My son, like, oh, I got a beach. Like, so and at this time, I'm homeschooling and world schooling him. So world schooling is basically where you use your environment to learn. So we would do aquariums and connect the lesson to that. We would use whatever was there in the environment. We would go to museums and learn about that, learn about the dinosaurs and different things. So in all of these countries, I'm pulling out whatever there is, and that's what we're learning from. We're making any and everything learning appropriate. And then also I'm using online things like Time for Learning, Elephant Math.
And what age is he right now?
Media Academy. At the time, he's about 9-10 years old.
Okay.
So all of these most of these go from preschool to high school. Some of them don't, but some of them do. IXL goes. So I'm also using these things. So I'm not just running around. I'm still teaching him. He's still learning. We're still doing writing and typing. I had a close relationship with his teachers and his therapists. So we're still doing that. So I'm still incorporating all of these things as mom, making sure that they have this. With my daughter, she was like, I don't know what I want to do when I grow up. So we're talking about different things, and this is what this person can do, and this person, and let's kind of dig deeper into you and what you're feeling. So in addition to bopping around, I am, despite what my one-way flights may say,
Yes.
I am a responsible
Yes.
parent.
And you are teaching. They are getting lessons.
Yes.
Aside from being worldly lessons, right? They are getting text lessons. Yes.
Right. Because some people just do the world schooling. I like the combination of it. And I was learning too. So, we may watch. I remember we were living in Mexico, and Black Panther 2 came out. Well, Black Panther 2 was based in Mexico. So we actually had went to see some of those great monuments and seen those artifacts that they talked about, not really knowing. And then we went to Black Panther 2, and then we were actually able to make the connection, because I was like, Kim, we just saw this. Kim, we did this. Remember, we saw this part of it. So,
but that's what you want learning to be anyway, so they can relate, so they can relate to what they're interested in, what they're learning. Yes.
Exactly. And you learn so much better by immersion than you do out of a book. So I don't want y'all to think I'm just taking my kids around and we ain't doing nothing, which some people do. They just let them learn by play.
Yeah.
But, we're still doing lessons. Since I was in the DR, I was able to make friends. I had a nanny there. I hired a nanny. We would go to different things. We stayed in 3 different parts of the DR, always on the beach. At this point, I met this Nigerian that delayed me leaving. So life was pretty good.
Yeah. Yes. It sounds pretty. Listen, it sounds pretty amazing to me. The spiritual journey, the physical journey, all of it sounds good to me.
Yeah, so life was pretty amazing in DR. When I came back, I was like, okay, it's time for me to leave. This is the end of this journey. So I came back.
Wait, you got to slow up. Okay. So at this moment, you're just bopping around. You're not in your mind. Are you scouting these places to see if you're going to leave? Okay. So no.
This was before scouting was a word.
Right.
There was no scouting.
So you just
went.
You just being a nomad. What you got honestly from your grandma, you just being a nomad, experiencing life with your son. Great. Okay.
Yeah, there was no scouting came about maybe 2 years after I started. We're doing scouting trips. No, we just went places. You went places. If you liked it, you liked it. If you didn't, you didn't. So there was scouting. So
I love this. Okay.
But
all right. So you're enjoying life. You're enjoying life.
I'm enjoying life.
Yes.
And DR wasn't meant to be my home. DR was a stop for me. I did not know this in the beginning because I'm on a journey, right?
Right.
But DR was fun. It was, but I didn't like colorism. Based off the color of my skin, I did not experience colorism. But I am very much one of those people that I'm very sensitive to my surroundings. Mm-hmm. I'm very much an empath. And, I didn't like it. And my daughter is dark skinned. So nothing was ever said to her, but it may have been because we were in the north when we were there. So it was very touristy. But when I got to Boca Chica, my daughter had went back home, but I noticed the shift. There were times where I would go somewhere and I remember someone saying, "Are you American and Haitian?" And I just kind of looked at them.
Yes.
Because if I spoke, then you were going to be able to tell what I was.
Right. That's why I don't fool with DR. My brother has an Airbnb there. He spent some time. He comes back and forth from Atlanta to DR, but I don't fool with DR because how they treat how they treat Haitians, how they treat dark, all of that,
Yeah,
colorism,
I
elitism.
remember.
I don't fool with them too much. But go ahead.
So there was my nanny was dark skinned and she was Dominican, and I remember because girl, we was on the bus. We were on the bus. We were on the whatever. It don't any country. We may be on the tut tut. We on whatever. We in the little van, the little small van where the people
Right.
just
Right.
get in like. So we were on the bus, and somebody said to her, "Are you Haitian?" And she was like, but in Spanish, she's like, "No, I'm not Haitian. Why would you think I'm Haitian? I'm obviously Dominican." And I'm like, "Boo, you dark skinned. Of course, maybe they think you Haitian,
They
but
assume,
what
right.
difference does it
But
make if you
but you're
were?"
still fighting against, first of all, they're your neighbors. You probably do have some Haitian in you. But to be
Right.
so animate about you not being Haitian, I I can't. I cannot.
Right. So I didn't experience it a lot. And like I said, I think it was because of my skin color, my son's skin color. And plus we the people that you may not always see me, but people always see my son. My son be knowing everybody. He know the guy at the corner store, he know the sugar cane man, the bus driver know him. So whether he with me or my nanny, everybody
Everybody
knows us.
knows.
The people at the
Right.
beach, so he just has that kind of spirit. So, but Dominican was fun. I had my whole Stella moment that I tell people. had my Stella moment with my Nigerian. It was amazing. It was amazing time until it wasn't. Until it got old, and I was like, "Oh, I ain't Stella. I ain't getting married. It's time to go."
And I'm not giving you nothing. So yes, you can't get no
Right.
type of, because I'm not even going back to the States. So let's go. Right.
That part. And that was one thing. I told him, I'm not getting married. And if you're trying to get to the States, I am not your ticket because I ain't going back.
I'm not going back.
So we
Yes.
can find you. And I'm such a straight shooter. I'm like, we can find you somebody because there's plenty of people here.
Yes,
women
I'll help
here
you
that want
if
a
that's where
man.
you want to be. Yes.
Right. And there are plenty of women here that want a man and will take you back. And he's like, no, charisma. That's not what I want. I'm like, I'm telling you. I mean, I don't want to be married. I don't want any of that. But I can help you find somebody. All these women
Right.
here, the way you look, we can find you somebody.
I'm not
if
the
that's what
one,
you
and it'll be
want.
so easy. Yes.
I'm a straight shooter, and that can be a good or bad thing. So we end up dating, and I think in his mind he thought he was going to change my mind, which is always a downfall of men. They think that they can change your mind. No, boo boo, I'm still leaving. So it was fun.
I'm untethered. I'm not tethered to my country. I'm not tethered to no man. I'm tethered to these children, and I'm leaving. Yes.
Right. I tell people I have commitment issues. I don't commit to a job, a place, a man, nothing. I got commitment issues. So it is what it is. I don't know what to tell y'all. I'm sorry, but I'm honest. You can never, ever accuse me of not being honest and upfront with you. So
listen, I want to thank people for showing up. We are all over the place in this conversation, but if you have any questions for Charisma about moving abroad with children, about moving abroad with a child with special needs, about any of the places that she has mentioned, Panama, Medellin, Costa Rica, Dominican Republic, please put them in the chat, including the upcoming topics about Kenya and Rwanda, because we haven't even made it to the motherland yet. So yes, put in your questions in the chat so we can get to them. But I appreciate you all being here. If you are here, please like the video. If you are watching in the future, in the replays, please like the video. Okay, so continue. Continue. All right.
So I'll speed up so we get to the motherland.
Right.
So after those 6-7 months, I go back to the States and I attend the Exodus Summit. So, for anyone that follows Rashida, Stephanie, Exodus, I was one of like the OGs of Exodus. Very early on,
yes.
I was like speaker, I was doing all of those things in Exodus, like very, very committed. It's such an amazing group of Black women coming together. So we went to the first Exodus Summit in Mexico. And I love Mexico. And what y'all will find is when I love somewhere, I decide I need to go there. So we go back home. I go to Mexico. I
So
go
what year is
somewhere
this? What
else.
year is this?
What year was the first Exodus Summit?
20? I think it was 20.
Girl,
I think it
I
was
really
20
don't
because
know.
each year they do. We're up on the 5th. If they do it this year, it'll be the 5th. It'll be the 5th Exodus Summit. So I think it was
Okay.
2020. Yep.
So yeah, so that's when I go,
Oh
made
well,
some
Angela
amazing.
is she's correcting
Okay,
us.
she said 2020.
2020.
Made some amazing friends, some amazing connections. I absolutely love Exodus Summit. If you're not part of the Facebook group, go in there. I mean, they just tagged me today about Kenya. So went to that. I did some other things as well. And then I was like, we did 3 months. And when I go back, I go back every year for my son's medical care. So I visit family, and I have him see all of his doctors. He goes to camp because he has a special needs camp he really loves. He's been going to for years. We refill medicines. So we do all of these things when we go back to the States. Basically,
Okay.
we re up. And I leave again. Child, I don't know where I went. No, I leave again to go to Day of the Dead in Mexico
In
because I want to
Mexico.
go.
Okay.
Yeah, I want to go to Day of the Dead because everybody go to Day of the Dead. So I go, and I'm supposed to be there for 2 weeks. But then I
So
decide
what
I
part
like
did you go? What
Mexico,
part of Mexico did you go to?
Mexico City.
Okay.
But then I decide I like Mexico City. So then we stay. We don't go back. We stay in Mexico City. I think we ended up being there for maybe Day of the Dead. We didn't come back to the States till December. So we ended up staying there for 2 months. And I'm like, I really like Mexico City. I think I want to live here now. So then I go to Playa del Carmen because back when we went to Exodus Summit, we went to Playa del Carmen. And I had decided Playa was the ultimate hot girl summer all year round. If you don't know about Playa, let me tell you, you go to Playa, you don't have no kids with you, you out here on the beach, you out here at the spa, you doing the
Playa
day
is a young
party.
girl game. That's a young girl game. That ain't for me. That ain't for me.
Honey, no, you gotta try it, honey. It is the ultimate hot girl summer. That's what I tell people. That's what you want. Go to Playa. So I was like, we went to Mexico City. Before I go back, I'm like, I want to go back to Playa and see how Playa is. Well, Lord and behold, I go to Playa, end up in a taxi, get in a car accident, get hurt, end up back in the States. 9 months I'm in the States recovering from this car accident because I had injured my back so badly.
Oh my
Um,
God.
yes. And in Mexico, I did not, and this is the one time I did not have my travel insurance because remember, I was only supposed to go for 2 weeks. So I was using my travel insurance on my credit card. But
So
normally I have,
and you had no children with you this time.
this time is when, so the first time I went to Playa, no, that's when I went
Okay.
with Exodus and I just stayed longer. This time is when I come with my son and we
Okay.
go to Mexico City and we go to Playa. In Mexico City, I ended up having a nanny there. But Playa, I ended up having like somebody to come in every so often. I get in a car accident. It was horrible. Like I thought I was being kidnapped, to be quite
Oh
honest with
wow.
you, because I felt like once the taxi and the person collided, they were talking in Spanish, and I didn't really know what was going on. They were talking really fast, and I just started getting very nervous.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to get out. Like I didn't even think to call the police. They got us to our destination. I got out. He was like, pay me. I was like, I ain't paying you shit. Like, you just got me in a car accident. I'm getting up out of here. But the nanny was like, I needed to go file a report at the police station. Well, when you live in countries like this, they don't have a lot of money. So you can file a report and you can do all of that, but you can't press charges unless you plan to stay in the country and follow
Wow.
up. Even
Okay.
when you press charges, they'll get arrested, but that you probably aren't going to get anything after that. So I was like, I'm not staying here. I was drugged. I was so bad that Cameron was being pushed in one wheelchair and I had to be pushed in the other wheelchair to get to the clinic.
Wow.
This is how bad off I was. So I go back to the States and I end up, and I did a video on that too. I
So
have a
you
video on
couldn't.
that.
Okay, wait. Pause. So you had to go to the hospital. You had to be seen about. You didn't have any insurance.
I didn't have insurance, but you have to. So the thing is, once you leave the States, medical is cheap. It's not like where it's thousands of dollars. So, if you go to the hospital in the state, overseas, it may be $500.
Okay, but you didn't have to
No,
be flown back.
total.
Like you weren't so bad off that
No, no,
you couldn't
no,
get yourself
no.
moving. Okay.
No, not that bad.
Okay.
So I did go and I went to orthopedist and, I had to do tests. I did like all my x-rays, MRIs there. I did some treatments there that they didn't have in the US, and he sent me back with them. They were some steroid injections. So those were very helpful. But I was by myself. Like I didn't want to be by myself in this situation. And the Exodus team was so helpful. I remember Rashida's mom offered for me to come and stay with her in Merida so that
Oh,
she could help me so I
right.
could have some people help me and she could help me with Cam. So this is how wonderful like having this community is. But I decided just to go back home and I ended up being there for 9 months. That's when I said I got back on antidepressants. I was in such a deep depression. I could barely walk, I could barely move. I was
Mm.
in so much pain. Doctors didn't really know what to do. Therapy wasn't helping. So I was there 9 months. By month eight, I was like, I got to get out of this place. This place is way too much for me. I was like, if I'm going to be in pain, let me back up. So this is December. I go home. I'm there 9 months. But in February, one of the ladies from Exodus was telling me we had planned to go to Rwanda and to buy some land. I wasn't able to go, so she still went to Rwanda, and I ended up buying land in Rwanda. So I own land in Rwanda.
Wait, ma'am. Stop. Pause. You are still you were still in the States. Did you bought the land sight unseen? You had not been in Rwanda?
I had not even been on the continent of Africa. She went there. She had land. It was a great price. And don't
She
forget, I'm
already
an
had land, or
investor.
she had it. Wait, slow it up, slow it up, slow it up. She had already been there to see the land.
So she bought land based off of a YouTuber that she had been following.
Okay.
So
Y'all
she
do
bought
not do
her
this at
land.
home. This is not disclaimer. Do not do this at home. But go ahead.
Actually, a lot of Americans do it. Rwanda is one of the very few countries in the US, not in Africa, that I would say you could actually do this because
Really?
they are
There's no
anti.
fraud, no scams.
Not in Rwanda.
Ooh.
It's very rare. I'm not going to say it never happens, but it's very rare. It's a crime there. So that's one thing that sets Rwanda apart from anywhere else. So she had bought land because she was like, retirement, things of that nature. Well, me, I'm an investor. I had researched and I found that Rwanda was building an airport that will be like the hub of East Africa. So for me, that's ding, 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 that's money. So I buy land for investment properties, not so much because I wanted to live there, because hell, I had never even been to Rwanda. So that's February.
Okay.
In August, I said, I'm leaving. I don't care if my back hurts. I don't care whatever. I said, if my back gonna hurt anywhere else but here in Atlanta in the United States, because I don't want to be here and I can't be here. And this place is killing me. This place is draining my soul.
Yes.
I remember being in Atlanta and there was a shooting, one of those mass shootings, and the person was on the loose, and my son was at camp because at this point I had to put him back in school because I was too ill to
To care
pretty much
every day,
take
all
care
day.
of him.
Yeah.
So I remember the guy had went near his school, where or his camp. And I remember like I gotta get to him. And I remember being in the car crying all the way there. And my mom's like, it's okay. And I'm like, you don't understand. You all are accustomed to this.
It's not
I
okay.
am not.
Right. You are numb
I
to the
know
situation.
I no longer live in a place where I have to worry that if we go to camp or the movies that my child may be killed. I was like, I don't live in that headspace.
Yes.
So I was like, we got to get out of here. So I was like, my back may hurt. It's just going to hurt. I was like, we're going to Rwanda. I bought land there. I need to finalize the process. It's now or never. I had always wanted to live in Kenya since I was a child. I was like, so we out of here. I was like, that's it. We're gone. And
so none of your, okay. So while you're making these decisions, right? Your family is used to you, moving, right? They're
at this
used to you
point,
moving.
yeah, they just like, that's just charisma.
Right. But you moving, now you have land, right? Your mother, has your mother ever said, you're not taking him over there, you're not taking my grandson? Has she ever
No,
told us
at this point, my mom was like, go, because this place is horrible. She was
very
like, this place
good,
is
Mom.
dangerous.
Yes.
She was
Yes. We love it.
yeah, she's like, I want to come. She was like, this place is dangerous because this was not the place that my daughter and my sister were raised in.
Yes.
This is a different place now. Even though it's only 9-10 years difference, it's a much different place where we could just send them to school and they were okay. We're at the point now where our kids are doing massive shooting drills.
Yes.
Having a special needs child during a massive shooting drill, I know my child is not going to stay quiet. So what happens when my child makes a noise and they bust through that door? Do I lose my child now?
Right.
Like, because he's at school? So at this point, and don't forget, I have been talking about leaving for 4 years before all of this happened, before I left. So they already had time to be like, Charisma, you shouldn't do that. Charisma, that's crazy. Charisma, people don't do that.
And you weren't going to listen anyway. You weren't going to listen anyway.
No,
they knew that. Yes.
It's all kinds of stuff that people tell me not to do. I do anyway. So this was no different. So I go to Rwanda in September, and within a month, my back no longer hurts to the extent that it hurt when I was in the US. I'm no longer as depressed. I'm dealing with some stuff because Rwanda is a different place. It is a place like no other. Like, it's like you gotta remember, these people just came to the modern day history in the 90s.
Okay.
So these people are still a little strange.
Okay.
Like
so what was the adjustment like? Like, what was the adjustment for you and for Cam? What was the adjustments that y'all had to make?
Cam doesn't care. Cam never cares. As long as, you know what I learned about him, as long as Cam has his own room, you designate his room. He got his Alexa, because we travel with that Alexa. He got his Alexa, he got his tablet. I would bring his pillowcase and his blanket. I would bring his monster trucks. And so wherever we went, he had his room. I would put all of this stuff in here. He walk in, he go to his room, and it's basically like, see you when I see you.
Okay, so, he need his own space, so you already know, right?
Right. So as long as he has these things, Cam is good. Cam don't care. He don't care nothing about what you doing over there. Like, you got a TV, I hook up the Fire Stick. Now, if you don't have these basic, amenities, he ain't trying to be there. Like, he turn on that TV and he don't see YouTube and all of his videos. He like, wait a minute. But as long as he signed into the YouTube, signed into his Alexa, I'm sorry, I know we're supposed to boycott Amazon, but Alexa can't go anywhere because that is like Cam's travel companion. So
how were you were still Worldschooling him, but are you trying to find a school situation for him now in Rwanda?
So we end up doing school in Rwanda because I was only supposed to be there a month and then go to Kenya. But as my life goes, it just goes. So we ended up being in Rwanda for 7-8 months. The land buying process is very slow. Everything moves slow in Rwanda.
Okay.
I tell people, you want to write a book? Go to Rwanda.
Go to Rwanda. I'm going. Go to Rwanda.
You want to write a book? You need to center and figure out your spirituality? Go to Rwanda. So Rwanda was that place where you could slow all the way down, slow down more than you knew. You was watching the grass grow in Rwanda, like you.
So wait, how is okay? So talk about the land buying process. So you said it went slow. What is
It's
the
very
process?
slow. The Rwanda does not do emails. So you literally have to take your paper to the office. And then you take that paper out to the rural areas that's like an hour away to that office. Then you take it from that office to the notary. And then the notary, he don't know how to notarize. So you got to take that paper to the other notary because this notary know how to do this type of stuff. And then you got to take it back to the office, back to the rural area. Like literally, it's
It is
like you
not
step
in one.
back
Not
in
only is it not
time.
in one building, it's not in one city center. It's not in. No, you are moving from town to city to outskirts.
The frustration, the frustration was up here. The frustration. Rwanda's a beautiful place, very clean, very safe. But the frustration of doing any business because you're talking to them and they're looking at you like, you're like, what are we doing? Like, are we speaking the same? Like I remember having someone tell me, I'm speaking English. I don't know what you're speaking. I told him, you are not speaking English. I have
Oh
no
my!
idea what language you think you were taught, but you were not taught English. I don't know what that is.
Oh no! Oh, so it took 7 months for you to purchase this land.
No, so what happened was I did do the purchase. I ended up meeting some people. This was when the Sudanese war broke out. A lot of
Okay.
Sudanese people moved there, and through some black expat friends, I ended up meeting some new Sudanese friends. So me and Cam would be hanging out with the Sudanese people, going to parties, eating soup, yeah, doing all of this. And I made this really good friend there, and we were like, we're gonna do a business. So we tried to do some business ideas. They didn't work. He tried to do some stuff, it didn't work, and eventually we were kind of like, what are we doing here? Like, what? We're like, why? We would sit down, we're like, why are we still here? And I was like, I don't know why we're still here. It
Oh.
was like, we
So
gotta
you
get
were
out.
just so there was no plan to start. You're just moving by the seat of your pants. Again, the ancestors are leading you.
So that this time I was going for my land and I was only going to stay 1 month and then go to Kenya because ultimately my goal has always been to get to Kenya. That has been in my heart since a little girl.
Okay.
So I stayed there for a while. I took a trip to Kenya for Christmas. That I didn't love. I had some stuff happen, so I was kind of healing from that. So I didn't love Kenya then, but we did all of the Kenya stuff, the safaris, the beach, all the Kenya stuff. So it was fun. And then I
Okay. Wait.
came
So
back.
before we get to Kenya for the logistics girlies, cost of living in Rwanda, right? How much was
Cost of living
the place
in
that you were
Rwanda.
staying?
So initially, I was staying in an Airbnb. I think that, well, let me say Airbnb and regular pricing are different. If you want to do an apartment in Rwanda, you can get a two-bedroom for around 700 a month. It used to be you can get one for 500 a month, but that went up. I ended up being me, getting a 4 or 5 bedroom house. Um, well, my
Oh,
goal
you and
was
your
to
one child.
rent.
Okay.
Yeah, my nanny lived with me.
Okay.
Well, she didn't live with me, but she stayed overnight. And my goal was to rent out another room.
Gotcha.
And this house looked like my dream house. Like it literally had the
I think I remember seeing you posting about it. Yeah.
I think so. The sitting area at the bottom where I had the rocking chairs,
Yeah.
the
I think because I
circle
screenshotted it.
balcony.
Like, oh, she living big in Rwanda. I remember the house clearly. Yes.
Right. And then it had like banana trees and things like that. So it was kind of like my little dream house. So I think that house was somewhere between 1,000 or 1,200 a month.
Okay.
But my goal was to rent it out. Like I'm always thinking real estate. So my goal was to rent it out or end up Airbnb in it. But it ended up having too many issues for me to do that. So that's Rwanda. And it's a good place for retirees. I will say that. But for somebody that's young that like to go out and do things, there's one movie theater. They show one movie a day. Like
Oh,
not, no, two showings a day. Not like two movies, two showings.
yeah.
That's it. If your movie isn't playing that day, it may be playing 3 days from then. There was one place to take the kids in the supermarket, where they could play.
So is
There were no
this is now,
playgrounds.
where is this though? Where city?
Rwanda, Kigali.
Okay, Kigali. Okay.
So now I think they've built another place to take the kids. It was a lot of meat. The food is not great. But you would meet up for lunch because they would have a little playground area there. But what I will say, what will keep you in Rwanda is the Black expat community there is very
Okay.
tight knit. They do a lot of stuff. The Black expats there do a lot of stuff. So between the Black expats and my Sudanese community, that's what kept me in Rwanda. It was the family friendliness. Like I
Okay.
didn't, even though I had stayed in the DR for a while, I didn't get that. But in Rwanda, that's the first time that I had gotten that.
So it would you say it be a good the community there is like supportive if you have children?
Some of them have children, some of them don't. The ones that do, they meet up and do different things with you. And you won't really interact with a lot of Rwandan people because Rwandan
Okay.
people are kind of standoffish, I believe, because of their history. That would be my my
Assumption.
guess.
Mhm.
Yeah. And I'm gonna say y'all probably like this child is so ignorant, but I didn't know much about
You
Rwandan history before I got there. I know I didn't see the movie. I y'all probably like they need to take her passport away. I know y'all, it's bad, but maybe that's why God led me there because He was like, we need to
listen.
put some knowledge into you, child.
But if people, but see, but it didn't hinder you because people who do know the history would have been may have been scared, right, to go.
Child, as long as I don't enter into a war zone, I think I'm good. So,
Oh my god!
because I just went. My land was there. Hell, I had to go. I had already paid my money. Like.
So, do you mind? You don't have to give the exact amount, but what is if people are thinking about moving there to buy land, right? What is the amount of money they should be thinking about?
So at this point, the land there has appreciated quite a bit. So at this point, I would say a plot of land is around, when I got around 400 square meters, but now you can only do around 300 square meters, which is almost comparison to about 3,000 square feet.
Okay.
So for me, I actually got two plots. My son has a plot in his name. So we have about, no, I have three plots. Three plots. No, I have two plots that now equal the size of three plots because
Okay.
of when I bought it. So right now, I would say you should expect to spend anywhere from 9,000 and up. So 9,000 to maybe 15, 20,000 for the smaller, 15,000 for the smaller plots by the airport. But if you go to the areas that are already developed, because the airport one is still developing, if you go to areas that's already developed, I had a friend there. She bought her land. I think when she bought it, it was 12,000 a plot. It is now going for 40,000 a plot.
Wow.
Mhm.
And she kept it. Did she keep it?
She kept it, yeah. So she bought several plots. The problem is what she wants to develop on the plot is, they're hindering her from developing that. So she's working on that.
Okay.
But, this is a good place, a good investment. It is definitely a place for a good investment. So, that's that. For me, my goal, I am so close to the airport. My goal was to probably lease out my land to someone else ultimately because I'm lazy. I don't like to do a lot of work. I like my stuff to be automated,
Right.
and just make money while I'm asleep. So
Right.
ultimately, I would lease out the land, but I could build apartments on it and do maybe like short term rentals, or even overnight stays since I'm so close to the airport.
Okay.
So I may not think ahead about travel, but I'm always thinking about my
About your
money.
money, about your bag. Yes.
So it was there that I actually got my idea to do my clinic for mental and emotional health, focusing on Black women, because
Okay.
I kept seeing, especially in the Exodus Summit, so many Black women that were still struggling. They were leaving these places, but they still were dealing with a lot of stuff. They were still carrying a lot of stuff. And, I remember learning this quote, wherever you go, there you are. So you can change your location, but it doesn't change who you are and what you're dealing with. And, there's a couple of things that I learned. I learned that you need time to heal. And it's a process. Healing is a process. It's not something that just happens overnight. There are steps that you go through. And the first step is you just got to release everything. But after you release everything, you got to learn how to rebuild. So I saw that. I also saw changes in my son. When we would go back to his doctors, every year they would tell me that he was doing better and better. They would say, whatever you're doing is working. Well, what I was doing was no longer living in the States. I no longer held on to the stress. And children, they can feel that stress, and that
Yes.
stress changes who they are. So I no longer had that level of stress. The other thing is we basically ate organic because once you leave the States, everything is pretty much organic unless you're literally going to places unless you're going to McDonald's or you're going to
They're
KFC
seeking
all the
out the
time.
same toxic food. Right.
Right. And even if you go to those places, they're not made the same way that they are in the States. So what I found was that by my son eating more natural foods and all these things, not only are you going to lose weight when you leave the States, but you also, brings clarity to your entire body. So what was happening was that we weren't doing anything special. I had taken him off all of his medicines for the most part at this point.
Wow. Really?
The only thing he has are asthma medicines. He was on like gabapentin for nerve pain. He was on clonidine for spasticity. Their muscles get very tight. At this point, he was on no more medicines. My son was not taking any of these things.
Wow.
The only thing was we were eating clean and we would go to restaurants. It's not like we weren't going to restaurants, but a restaurant in the States is different than a restaurant overseas. They
Right.
actually cook the food right there. The
Right.
food is fresh, it didn't go through the processing. One thing I had to learn is I had to go grocery shopping once a week because your produce will go bad, because it's real I was like, well, my stuff keep going bad. But no, that's how real
That's
produce
how real
is.
food works. Yes.
So in his diet changes that I didn't realize were changes, his diet changes. We were walking. He would walk to the beach. He would swim multiple times a week. He was in the water. He was eating. He still would snack, but when you snacking on the smoothie on the street, is different than when you snacking on a smoothie at the little smoothie place in the States. This smoothie has fruits and cane sugar. That's
Yes.
it.
And that's it. Right.
That's it. So and my son couldn't eat milk. It couldn't drink milk in the States. He can drink milk abroad. He cannot drink it in the States. It produces an allergy in the States. So these are the things that when I came back every year, the doctors would say, whatever you're doing is working. He's getting stronger. He's doing better. And mind you, my son has a diagnosis of canned or KIF1A. It is a very rare disease that says they get progressively worse. And most of the children have declined at age
And he's
12.
getting progressively better.
On his 12th birthday, I remember sitting there crying because I was like, this is the point that he starts declining. Well, my son will be 14 this year. There's no decline. We're not seeing decline.
And if
He's
you
doing
follow her, if
very,
you see,
very
he is
well.
in every picture, he is smiling, he is eating in the videos, he is out in the world. That boy is living his best life. You understand? Yes.
Yes. And in Rwanda, he went to school. He went to, so with, my advice would be with a special needs child, I'm not a big believer in putting them in these international schools. In my opinion, and this is different for everyone, international school is not much different than putting your child in school in the States. You're not really surrounded by the local people. You may be surrounded by the people that work at the embassy or things of that nature, but these are not local people. So, what I would do is I would put him in private school where he's surrounded by, a lot of local people. There were a lot of Sudanese kids there, all those things. Now, these schools are not for people who have special needs. They're not going to have IEPs. But one thing that I have learned about these schools is that they care. They will sit there, focus on your baby, study your baby. They listen. They want to hear what you have to say. They want your feedback. And what they will do is they will take that and they create what is the best thing for your child. And that's what I found happening in Rwanda in the private school that he was in. And I love that for him. The problem with Rwanda was I was bored out of my mind. So the school was good, but I could not be there long term. So what you laughing at me?
Yes. Yes. It was for retirees, and baby, you are not retired. You are not in the rocking chair. Yes, you had to go.
Right. And I needed to find a place that was good for both of us. So even though the first time I went to Kenya, I didn't feel like I had the best time, I went back again because I said, okay, there's a reason. There's a reason Kenya has been on my mind since I was 8 years old, and that was the African country assigned to me in
And that's
school.
not usually, people don't think of Kenya. They think of Nigeria,
Exactly.
they think of Egypt, they think of other, Morocco. They're not thinking of Kenya. I wonder what what led you to that? What was
I was 8 years old. I was assigned Kenya in school as a project. Everybody had a different country, and I fell in love with it from there. Like everything about Kenya drew me to it. You know, the animals, the trees, the beaches, the flag. Everything about it said this is where I wanted to go. So fast forward, I went in December, went back in April. I said, we're going to go to Kenya for 2 weeks during his spring break. Okay, me being me, we went to Kenya. I had a ball. We stayed for 2 months. I told the school, we not coming back. I told my nanny, I gave them my notice for my
put your mom
apartment.
on
Go
the phone?
pack
We're
up
not coming back. Yes.
I said, go pack up my apartment, put all of the stuff in my car. What can't go in my car, take over to my friend's house. I sent her some money. I was like, this is what I need you to do for me. She packed it all up. They drove the car over my friend's house, parked the car, packed the stuff up over one of my other friends' houses, and I lived my best life in Nairobi. Like I had got a nanny. I was out here partying. I was in the streets. I'm telling y'all, I was in the streets. It was bad. We were going
So
everywhere.
Nairobi is for the streets. If you need, that's Rwanda is for retirement. Nairobi is for the streets. Got it.
But the other thing was there was so much for my son to do. We were going to car shows. We were going to the rodeo. We had never been to the rodeo and all of that. We were going to the rodeo. And the thing is, once you reach Africa, everybody looks like you. You're not, until you open your mouth, you just look like everybody else.
Yes.
It is the most amazing thing. So when you go to the horse park to see the horse show, everybody look like
Everybody
you.
look like you. Yes.
You're dressed up, and everything they do here, all of the shows, they always have a kids area. So there's a jumpy house, there's popcorn, so we went from just one place to go in Kigali to we were going different places all the time. We were all over here, there, and everywhere. It was amazing. I didn't go back. I was supposed to go back in 2 weeks. I was like, no. My friends was like, Charisma, how you just not gonna come back? I was like, it happens as it
Not go back,
happens.
pack up my stuff, put it in her house, store it. I'll come get it later.
Yep, I made all arrangements over the phone. Honey, I had the keys to the house. I FedExed those keys back to my nanny. I went ahead, I still paid her for the month. I was like, you ain't working, but girl, just get this stuff together for me. I'll give you this money. I went ahead, sent her the payment. She took care of everything for me. I was like, I'll be back for my flight because I had a flight back to the States. So I had to be back for that. So
Okay, hold on. Before we go into Kenya, y'all, we are covering so much. If you have any questions about Rwanda, about moving to Africa with a child, please put them in the chat if she hasn't covered it. All right, so you are living your best life. You are kicking it in Nairobi.
Child, Nairobi, you start club hopping. You would have thought I was 25 again. I was out here club hopping, living my best life, getting home late, waking up the next day. Then me and my son was out here doing things.
So is there a nanny in Nairobi now? Did you have a nanny?
Yeah, we're in Nairobi. And then we also have Rwandan residency. So we have East African residency. So everything is cheaper for us. Honey, we be over there seeing the giraffes. We already been to see the giraffes, but it only cost us $5. So we about to see these giraffes again. We going to see these elephants again. We at the malls. All the malls have play areas. Like I said, my son know everybody. So we walking down the street. Hey to the sugarcane man. We get an air now. The Airbnbs can be tricky. I'm gonna tell you, it's rough. But you get the right one, you're good. We're in walking distance to a little jumpy place, with the trampolines. So we just walk up there. We can walk to Chinatown, honey. We just living our best life in Nairobi.
There's a Chinatown in Nairobi.
It is. It's a Chinatown in Nairobi. Yes. So Nairobi is definitely a little bit of a melting pot. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
A lot of foreigners come here to work. It's a major tech hub.
Got you.
So we living our best life. I am just loving Nairobi. I love it so much that I go ahead and book my one-way flight back from Atlanta to Nairobi before I even leave. Now, remember, I don't plan anything. This is the first time.
Did you book a flight? Did you book
I booked a flight? So I go back to Rwanda. I got 2 weeks in Rwanda to get my affairs in order. Set everything, I'm gonna leave this at this person's house. I can get this to Nairobi. I'm gonna sell this, give this away, whatever. So go back to the States for our annual check-in. My daughter's in college, so I fly to Jersey, New York, all of that because she's moved at this point, so she's living her best life. So I come back, go to Nairobi. Well, let me tell y'all, Nairobi is a whole vibe. It is a whole turn up. But living in Nairobi is not for the weak. Okay. It is. Nairobi. So I had a Kenyan tell me, and I was like, I have not done the research, that Nairobi is second in scamming only to Nigeria.
Ooh.
So it is not.
So it's not the place to try to buy something sight unseen.
Oh, you ain't gonna have nothing. You're not gonna have your money. It is the only place that I know that they will scam you out of an equivalent to $1 and lose $300. Like you may be purchasing something for $300 and they'll scam you out the first dollar to the point where you don't want the thing for $300. So
you have to have street smarts to be in Nairobi.
Even if you are, it's Kenyans that still get scammed.
Ooh. Okay.
It is.
Thanks for the warning.
So when I have clients that want to move abroad, Nairobi is not a place I suggest. And it's the reason why is not because it's horrible. It's because you have to be called to Nairobi, to Kenya. You cannot be like, la, 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 let me book this one-way flight. Your feelings gonna be hurt. You gonna get your feelings hurt in Nairobi. I have been lived in plenty of countries, as you can tell, and this is one of the hardest countries I've lived in. However, this country gives me everything that I feel like I need.
And
It
this
is
is
an
the first country you
amazing,
try to like. You staying indefinitely. This is where you're gonna be for a second.
right,
Okay.
right. It is the first place that the school has been even better than the school in Rwanda. And it was actually his physical therapist in Rwanda that recommended the school. He does horseback riding, swimming, he does cooking classes, beadwork. What else? This is all basic school. You know,
So
this
it's not
school
a private school. Is it a private
is
school?
still a private school.
Okay.
It's not international. It's still a private school. So you still pay your tuition, but it's way less than it would be. I think it's like maybe 3 to 4 thousand a year.
Okay. That's
And that in the
amazing. That's
States, that
cheap. That's
probably
a
would
year.
equate to
Yes.
like 30,000 a year.
Yes.
Yeah, anywhere between 3 to 5 thousand a year, maybe. So that is, so he has the school. It gives us the life of doing things. I don't. Girl, he's having his best life at that school, and they care. Like it was a little bit of a rocky start. And so when I came to Nairobi the second time, that 2 months, they allowed him to go for free for a month. So he was able to try it out. So when I came back, I knew that's where he would stay. It was a little
And
bit
who
of a
does
rocky.
that? Who allows you to come for free to try it out?
Right. So it was a little bit of a rocky start, but they needed to get to know me and they needed to get to know him because Kenyan people are a lot more passive than we are. We speak up a lot more. So I would say East Africans are more passive and West Africans tend to be more aggressive.
Okay.
So when I'm speaking up, they're a little bit like taken back.
Mm-hmm.
So they have to learn me and they learn, and they have to learn him. But it was, it's a beautiful thing. There's no official IEP, but they're learning his habits. He's now doing things that the other schools in the States couldn't teach him to do. And he's really blossoming.
Like what? What are some things?
Like in the States, we started typing because we didn't think that he would be able to truly write. Now he's writing on a regular basis.
Wow.
So, it's things that we don't have to look at what's this goal, how do we do this?
They're not placing limits on him.
Exactly. So it hasn't even been a full year yet, and he's really blossoming in this school. Like they do piano classes. They found he don't like piano and music. So they said, well, let's look at some other things. That's how he ended up in culinary classes. And he loves it. And what's funny is my daughter's in school to be a chef. So she's in culinary school. So, that's always been her love. So he would see her cooking. So, it's a different type of thing. He has friends that he can play with. So because he wanted to go to school. Let me add that. The reason I chose Kenya is because he wanted to go to school. He, I believe the traveling was becoming too much. He's a teenager now.
Yes.
And this is his life too. Because me, I could keep rolling around on these one-way flights.
He needed somebody outside of you.
Right. Well, he had friends in Rwanda, but I think he really needed to be in that environment.
Yes.
Not like I meet up with my friends, the environment. And frankly, I was tired of homeschooling. I salute y'all that homeschool the whole time. It is exhausting.
I can imagine.
It was fun at first.
Right. But all day, every day, that's all we got. You both need socialization. He needs socialization with other children. Right.
Yep. So he does really well in school. I don't go out nearly as much as I used to now that I live here, but there's always something going on. There's a conference or a horse show or a polo show. You can go out every night of the week. There's jazz. There's R&B, there's Afro beats, there's clubs, there's dress up, dress down. They got brunches like Atlanta. And these brunches are much cheaper than Atlanta. The most
I heard
expensive is
somebody say
75,
like
and that's
it's
really
like the
expensive.
not the Atlanta of the
It
country.
is.
Yeah,
It
somebody
is.
said like it's kind of that vibe there.
Right. It's like the Atlanta of Africa. It definitely is. And I think that's what I like about it. I have an amazing nanny. I found an amazing pediatrician. Like they actually sat down and talked to us. I found an amazing orthopedist. We have a new physical therapist. So things are just, it's now at a place where we actually have a life here. And considering what's going on in the US, I made a decision that we're not coming back this year. That's why I decided to find some doctors, just because I don't know, I can't live in a dictatorship. So
So we're breaking it down. Break it down again for the logistics. How much is the nanny there? How much about do you pay the nanny?
around 200 a month,
Okay.
and that's a live-in nanny. So my nanny lives with me.
Okay. So physical
Mhm.
therapy for him.
Like $16 a session. I pay less than your copay.
Wow.
No, wait,
Okay.
wait, wait. Maybe no, a little bit more, between maybe $25 a
It doesn't
session.
matter. It's cheaper. It's cheaper. It's 25. You going about dollars, ma'am? Stop. Okay. Physical therapy. You said something else. Orthopedist.
So the doctor's visits range from $30 to $40 a visit, and
Okay.
this is with no insurance.
Right. Okay. Your apartment in Nairobi.
So this apartment, hold on, let me calculate that. So I lived in another apartment. If anybody's gonna move to Nairobi, I tell them not to move there. It was called the Marquise. It was hell. I paid a lot of money there. I actually paid $1,500 a month.
And it wasn't
But
bargain. It wasn't a bargain, and it was hell. Okay.
I tell people the amount that you pay does not equate a good place to live here. So now I paid then about 1450, 1500. I now pay 1150 a month.
Okay. And that's for how many bedrooms?
I have 3 bedrooms and I have a DSQ, which is a servant quarter. So that is basically my
That's where your
nanny,
nanny lives.
her
Okay.
home. Yeah, that's where she lives.
So
Hmm.
again, this is not okay. This is Charisma is not a budget friendly Nomad. She got a little cash, she got a little pocketbook, she got some change. So she has an ensuite to her. But your ensuite, your place with an ensuite is regular rent, in the States, right? 1,500.
Yeah, like I have a view of the city. I have 2 balconies, one off my bedroom and one off of my living room.
Yes.
I'm in a condo, so we have security, pool, gym. I have a sauna just because I like the saunas. So my
Yes.
building has a sauna. I live between like the major areas. So you have like Sarit Mall, which is one of the biggest malls. You have Junction Mall. I live right in the heart of Nairobi. I take Ubers everywhere. Uber's like $2 to $4 anywhere. Anywhere is about $2 to $4. So I take Uber. I refuse to drive here. It is organized chaos, and they drive on the other side of the road.
Mm-hmm.
Let me see what else. What else? And sometimes I take a bike, a motorcycle. That may be $1 to go where you need to
So it's still
go.
cheaper than here, right? It's still cheaper than
Oh
here.
yeah, definitely. It's like living in Atlanta for like half the price.
Right.
Because I know what I have here. Like I have a huge apartment. I have like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 bathrooms. So my apartment is really big. You can definitely get like a 1 or 2 bedroom for like $600, $700 here, and it, $600 to $800, and it'll still be nice. So you don't have to live like me. But what I learned is when I first left, I was like, I'm gonna live like a local. I'm gonna live like a local, baby. However you lived in the States is how your behind gonna live when you leave. So you can be like me and scream, I'm gonna live like a local, and you're gonna get in that local place. You're gonna be like, what the hell is this?
I
You
cannot.
ain't
Right.
gonna live like that.
Right.
You ain't. Don't lie. Don't lie to
You ain't
yourself.
about
Go
that
ahead and
life. We
find
ain't
out
about
now.
that local life for real. Some of us, you ain't about that local life.
No, ma'am. No, ma'am. Not at all. I need my son needs his pool because he swims regularly. I need like I have 3 rooms. One is my office. No, ma'am. I can't. I cannot, and I won't live like a local. God did not bring me this far to live, and I'm not knocking it for whoever it's for. It is
It's not for
for.
you. Right.
It
We make
ain't
our
for
choice.
me, no,
Listen,
ma'am.
everybody's path is different. You make your choices for you. Angela has a question. Can you see it?
Yeah. So I've been to Mombasa. Mombasa is the coast in Kenya. So it's the beach area. I've been to Mombasa. Diani is really nice as well. There are people that live in Mombasa. They live in Malindi. I don't know if it's a lot of people that live in Lamu, but those are different places on the coast that you can live. Diani is going to be the most expensive, and Watamu. Diani is the most expensive. The other ones are a little cheaper. For me, I live here because of the school, because I love the beach. But what I learned about beach towns, living in like, DR and stuff, is beach towns get boring after a while.
And are they
Mombasa, they
touristy?
tend,
Are they touristy?
I
Very?
mean, they have their ups and downs.
Okay.
So, they have their tourist season. But living there, it's not a lot to do. And after coming from Rwanda, we needed a big city. We needed stuff to do. So the good thing about living in Nairobi is you can always take a 1 hour flight to the coast.
Okay.
It's maybe about $150 round trip, give or take. And then you can take the train, which is about what, 30 to first class is $30 to $50 round trip, I believe. So, you still can go to the coast. Like when my son's out of school, this time we're going to Egypt, but next time we're going to stay a couple of months on the coast for like 2 months or something like that. So you still have that option. What else? Let me tell you this. The other thing is my nails. This is like the gel builder. I pay maybe $20 with the designs. My hair.
And are they coming to you or are you going to them?
I go to them.
Okay.
You can have them come to you, but for these, I go to them. My massage therapist comes to me. I pay maybe $30. So my massage therapist does come to me. Let me see. My hair, I pay maybe $50.
And those some micro braids, those some little braids for $50. You understand what I'm telling you? That's a lot. Paying braids. That's a lot of little braids for $50.
$50 is a lot. I had decided to get some sister locks and have hair put in, human hair. I think I paid $200 for those. Yeah, I ain't like them, so I had them take them out. They were starting
Okay,
to
so I'm a
lock.
food girly. How's the food compared? Because you said Rwanda food wasn't that good. How's the food in Nairobi?
So it's better than Rwanda, but it's not great. The good thing is there's all kinds of ethnicities. There's Chinese, there's Indian. So
Okay.
you just have to find your own, you have to find your restaurants. There's brunch. There's a lot of brunch spots. They're really big into meats, Naoma Choma. So they're really big into meats and things like that. So, it could be better,
Okay.
but there's some variety. Like I went to Qatar and the food was amazing in
Okay.
Qatar. So it's not like it's amazing, but it's like, it's decent. But yeah,
You never hear them in like the food wars, like the Jollof rice wars. They're not a
I
contender.
don't think they made
So
jollof rice.
yeah, they're not a
No.
contender.
So
Any type of food wars, they always have some type of battling food wars.
Kenyan food is not amazing itself, but you also have to remember Kenya is very metropolitan. You're not going to come to Kenya and feel like the African vibes.
Got you.
It is very much not like people say when they go to West Africa, like they're like, I landed in the motherland.
Yes.
That's not really what
It's
you
the
feeling in Kenya.
it's the Atlanta of Africa, right? Everybody says that. Yeah.
Yeah, you just
Okay.
wearing your regular
The
clothes. Yeah.
metro, yeah, the metro center.
Yep.
So groceries, if you're cooking mostly, like groceries run what?
First of all, I don't cook. Wait a minute. We left those slave tendencies in the U.S. about cooking.
This is the life of ease you want. You understand when we tell this is what I'm talking about. If I'm going somewhere, I want to live like charisma. This is what I want.
I cook if I feel like it. Like yesterday, I made some jerk goat because I felt like cooking. I don't
So
cook.
look, we've been on here for 2 hours. We haven't even gotten to the holistic health. Her
Child,
her
we're gonna have to do
holistic
a
health.
part two.
We are on hour 2. But she does all of this with the child, moving from country to country, juggling all these balls by focusing on her mental, spiritual, physical health, right?
Yes.
She has some sessions coming up, from overwhelmed to empowered, a 5-day stress reset for women, right?
Yes.
What is this workshop about? Especially in this, when we began this conversation, we were talking about if you want to move, you do not have to do so. You do not have to ingest the chaos and craziness of the environment around you. You can do so by prioritizing your peace, right? Choosing locations based on the life of ease that you want, based on how your alignment with the future, your future life, your next phase, all of those things. It doesn't have to be so an anxious, anxiety filled process, right? So talk about this session.
So for my clinic, holistic breakthrough clinic, a lot of the women that I see, I tend to see a lot of women that's moved abroad, and they expected when they moved abroad, everything was going to magically change. Everything was going to get better. But like I said, it's a process, and for me, it's a process I walk women through because it's not easy. It's a lot of, and the way I do it through a holistic and functional medicine way. And that means that I touch on different parts. I touch on your physical, I touch on your stress, your emotional, your lifestyle, your eating habits, your sleeping habits. I put together a plan of care that tackles what you're dealing with, not necessarily what anyone else is dealing with. Everybody is different. So, right now, a lot of people, especially in the States, and even us that's transitioned to other countries, are dealing with so much. I'm just reading what's going on in the States, and it's stressful. So, I can imagine for those that are living in the States, it's even more stressful. So, when I put up a poll and I asked on my Facebook and my IG, and I asked, what is it that you all need right now? Do you want to focus on peace? Do you want to focus on stress? Do you want to focus on sleep? And everyone pretty much said they needed to focus on stress. So what I did was I put together a 5-day free, it's absolutely free. I try to do something free at least once a quarter, if not every other month. But it is a free, not necessarily a challenge, but I want you to reset your mind, body, and soul during this. I want you to look at the little things that you can focus on that are going to make the biggest difference in your life. So you can register for this. It'll be at the end of April because y'all, I'm going out the country again. But I want you to at least have those tidbits that can help you. We'll talk a little bit about your sleep. We'll talk a little bit about your mindset. We'll talk a little bit about nutrition, doing some breath work, all of these different things that you can incorporate to get through that day, because sometimes we just need to get through the Monday. It's not even about getting through the month. Get through Monday and
Yes.
then get to the next day.
Yes. So I put it in the chat. It's also in the description below this video. Um, some of us are not in a position to leave the US right now. And some of us don't even want to. So this session will help you, center your wellness while whatever's happening in the country, while we go through this transition. But we don't have to internalize all this despair. All of that should not be. We have enough burdens. You shouldn't have to carry that along with you as you go through your days, as you wake up, as you still have to function, right? So again, if you think you need a reset, if you think you want a community to help you get through this time, if you just, if you don't know how to meditate, if you want to take better care of yourself and make yourself a priority, check it out. Click the link to see what it's all about. We all need to think about how we're going into this next phase. And to do so, we still have to take care of ourselves physically, mentally, spiritually. I think this is the perfect time to, focus on that. And
Yeah.
Charisma is the perfect person to usher you through this change, this transition.
Yeah. So I love to see you there. We also have a community. So you'll be added to the Facebook community of like-minded women that's doing the same thing and going through the same thing. I mean, before I started this whole nomad journey, I had to deal with this stuff right there in the States. And it's definitely harder in the States than it is. So I just want to be that voice of reason and give you some tools and some different things that you can incorporate in life, so you can stay grounded and you can stay focused and you can, you only want to focus, you need to focus on what's here, not everything that's out here. And a lot of
Yes.
times we're focused on all of it, especially as Black women. We are really bad at that. And that's something that has to be taught. We have to unlearn what we learned and then be taught something new, so we can change our focus and change our mindset so we can move forward. Kind of like I said, when I did the ayahuasca, it's like I saw everything differently. I broke out of this box. So it's helping you start to make your way out of this box, that we've been put in.
All right, ladies. We are exactly at 2 hours. We have ran the gamut about this conversation. If you have stayed with us through this journey, please like the video. Please share it with other like-minded women. And if you still have lingering questions, Kyoka was here earlier. She will be on Kyoka's channel, the Aqua Like Nomad, tomorrow. So if any of your questions weren't answered in this video, tune in tomorrow for Kyoka's video chat with Charisma. She will be there. We did not set it up like that. We are just riding on the same wavelength. But I thank you, Charisma, for sharing your story with us. It was wow. It was wonderful. I love this journey for you and for your children. Is there anything you want to say to the people before we leave?
Sorry, it was something by me. I would just say live your best life, however that looks for you. That may not be moving abroad, it may be taking a trip, your house, that may be something that's important to you. Whatever that thing is for you that makes you smile, makes you laugh, makes you happy, find that and focus in on that. That's going to make the biggest that's going to make the biggest difference in your life. If today was the last day, what of your life, what would it be that you want to be doing with this day? And if you look at life like that, then it ends up being a beautiful thing. You don't want to wait. I used to specialize in geriatrics. You don't want to wait until you're 70 and retired to say, now I'm gonna start living my life.
Exactly.
Because you may not make it to 70. You may be hurt by 70. You may have to take care of your grandkids at 70. Anything can happen between now and 70. So live your life out loud and live it out loud now in the best way you can.
And with that, we'll leave you all. Thank you for joining us. See you soon.